Hello and welcome back to another episode of Mr. V's Camping Chair Chat. My name is Mr. V and I'm currently sat in a camping chair on the exit of the Corkscrew in Laguna Seca, in Assetto Corsa, if you're wondering. For the audio-only listeners, in Assetto Corsa, not in real life. Obviously, relatively dangerous place to sit in the gravel here just on the exit, but behind me there is a race of 23 Cadillac Type 62s. It's the Generation 3 model from about 1948. They are not quick. You'll see them come through the Corkscrew in a second if you're watching on video. They're not fast, so I'm not too concerned sat here. They're having a bit of fun. Our customary Mazda MX-5, who's normally at the back of the grid, A, couldn't get his visa in time to fly over here to America, so he's not with us. B, I think he probably would have won this race as well, which is not normally why he's here. He's here to have fun. He doesn't want the pressure of leading this grid of Cadillacs, so he stayed at home this weekend. But if in future the Camping Chair Chat is in another virtual race, he will be back. Do not worry. I would like to clarify, I will go to a real place at some point. I promise. I'll be in real life at some point, but I've just been hosting the first ever Monaco non-prix. If you didn't see it on the YouTube live stream earlier this afternoon, or should I say Sunday afternoon, because the podcast comes out on Monday, I put together a little race event along with Zooming Past, a wonderful content creator on YouTube. If you love tracks, all things kind of custom tracks and F1 silliness, I would recommend you go check out his channel, give him a subscribe, make some excellent stuff. We have worked together putting together a much, much worse version of Monaco. All will be explained on that in a few weeks when the video comes out, but it was a lot of fun. So I've just been hosting that event. It means I didn't really have time to go anywhere. So we are here once again in the virtual world. Anyway, the podcast. Enough rambling. The podcast. I guess the whole podcast is me rambling. I'm rambling again. Too much rambling. The podcast. So I didn't do one last week, but the reason for that was I sat down to really sum up my notes for the week, because I jot stuff down every time I hear a news story, and there just really wasn't much. A couple of things were said in some interviews, but there really wasn't much last week. It was the middle of this extended break between Singapore and the US Grand Prix. And I think just everyone was on holiday. I know certainly all the drivers, and it looked like lots of the key team personnel, team principals, that kind of thing, they all seem to be on holiday. And I assume loads of different media correspondents also went on holiday, because last week there was just no news in Formula 1. But it seems like lots of people have started to come back and started to give their very silly Formula 1 opinions once again, because we have got news once more. And this is very much a week of the weird and wonderful extended world of Formula 1. Obviously, we haven't had a race. We have the US Grand Prix next weekend, which I'll be doing a race review of. Don't know at what time, because that race is at 8 PM UK time, so I might have to film it at like midnight, or I'm going to film it on Monday morning and just get the podcast out Monday evening, that kind of thing. We shall see. So we're not covering a race, but we have had a whole host of, let's say, extracurricular news in Formula 1 this week. My list contains Formula 1 Hot Wheels, which is very cool. A little bit more Red Bull Daniel Ricciardo driver, let's say, rumours. The all-in-one launch event that's been proposed. I'm going to talk about that quite a bit, because I find that quite an interesting concept. And the ticket scandal, let's say, for the Australian Grand Prix, where the tickets went on sale, but then sort of didn't. They sort of weren't available. And we'll talk about that. I'm going to talk about ticketing and whether watching Formula 1 live is kind of working at the moment. We'll see what I mean, but if you try to buy a ticket for a Grand Prix, you will know that the price has gone up substantially in the last few years. So I'm going to have a chat about whether that's right. But first up, I wanted to mention a couple of things. Well, I guess one tiny thing is the rookie race that was planned for the end of this year is not going to happen at the end of this year. It was announced that everyone was on board with the proposal, but everyone realised, I say everyone, it's the FIA and Formula 1 management and the teams. Everyone kind of came to a consensus that it was too late to start organising it now, and fair enough, it's October and they were planning to do this in December, so that's not that much time to organise a race event, because that is different to a testing event. Fair play. But they've said that all parties are on board to start this in 2025, which is good news. That's a nice addition to the season. Talked about it a couple of weeks ago on the podcast. I think that's great, but it's not happening this year. Bit of a shame, but still cool that we're getting it. The next piece of small news, this is, of course, Mr. V's Camping Chair Chat, a race review podcast, but I need to announce that there is a virus outbreak in Rwanda. Not taking the piss, there genuinely is a virus outbreak in Rwanda. Why am I talking about that? Good question. So to give some context what I'm talking about, there is an outbreak of the Marburg virus in Rwanda. It is apparently similar to Ebola, but is its own separate thing. There have been a number of confirmed cases, either in the tens or in the hundreds, and a few confirmed deaths, which is obviously very tragic. The reason I'm saying this, the reason it's pertinent to Formula 1, is that the Formula 1 prize giving ceremony, the event at the end of the year, typically in December, no, it's always in December, what am I talking about? Typically in the final weeks of December, which is the event where the champions from all different FIA categories, I want to say WEC, Formula 2, Formula 3, that kind of thing, but also the top 3 Drivers' Championship finishers from Formula 1, so the champion, but also kind of like the championship podium, as it were, all have to attend. Mandatory attendance. They have to go to this. I believe it is in the rules that you're not actually the champion until you are given the trophy at the prize giving ceremony. If you don't turn up to the ceremony, you are not the 2024 Formula 1 Drivers' Champion. I suppose it goes to P2 or whoever is the best placing person who does turn up. Mandatory attendance. So quite a big event, obviously. That is scheduled to take place in Kigali, the capital city of Rwanda this year. I talked about it in my video discussing the proposal for a Rwandan Grand Prix in the future. Well, not proposal, like news that motorsports and government officials from Rwanda were keen on bringing a Grand Prix to the country. So I made a video talking about that, and I mentioned how the prize giving ceremony for 2024 is in Rwanda. It's an interesting choice because if you look at all the previous locations for the prize giving ceremony, you've got like Monaco, France, the UK, Italy, Azerbaijan, but obviously they have a Grand Prix. They are all countries that have Formula 1 Grand Prix. This is the first time ever we've gone to a country that doesn't and has never hosted a race. So it is important news, significant news in that sense. Not going to get into the politics of that, but the ceremony is scheduled for Rwanda in December, and there is a virus outbreak in Rwanda. So the FIA had to release a press statement this week saying that they are going ahead. I suppose with the current scale of the outbreak, that's fair enough. But if it continues to spread and become a more serious incident, is that okay, FIA? Is it ethical to ask loads of people who live not in Rwanda? I'm pretty confident that basically no one attending this event lives in Rwanda. So is it ethical to ask people to come from all over the world and to travel into a country with an ongoing virus outbreak? Is that ethical? Call me controversial, but I'm going to say no. I think there might be some minor ethical issues with that. That's never stopped the FIA before. It's just an interesting news point, isn't it? So I guess maybe let's keep an eye on that later in the year. If the situation gets worse in Rwanda, maybe the prize giving ceremony will have to move. Maybe FIA's hand will be forced and they will have to have it in a different place. Just a bit of a weird one. But that is news for the week. Let's move on to the next thing. Something a lot happier than diseases. Hot Wheels. Quite a culture shift, quite a tonal shift. Hot Wheels. So, an announcement came out this week that Formula 1 is partnering with Hot Wheels to release a signature line of Hot Wheels cars. You know what a Hot Wheels car is. A 1T62 little die-cast, normally steel model with like a steel chassis. You put them on the plastic tracks and they go fast and you can put the tracks around your house. Excellent. Fantastic. I don't think it's much of a stretch to say that many motorsport fans and car enthusiasts and people who would be watching this podcast probably had Hot Wheels or would have had some exposure to them, at least as a child. This is a cool collaboration. This is big thumbs up from Mr. V. This and the Lego stuff is really the kind of cash grab that I would like to see Formula 1 doing. If they're going to try and sell me anything, this is a good option. Well done, Formula 1. It's just nice because it generally well-liked brand. I saw a thing saying apparently Hot Wheels are the best-selling toy in the world, which is a little bit shocking because I would have gone with Lego, I have to say. But, you know, really well-loved brand, been around for a long time, big part of my childhood at the very least, and I'm assuming it was for lots of you listening as well. This is a nice crossover. So they released some images, which I'm sure I've already put behind me for the video watchers, of this initial car that is already on sale. It's kind of like the, you know, when we went to the 2022 regulations and Formula 1 put out their kind of show car in 2021, the kind of silver one with the red accents, just to show off what the regulations would probably look like. It looks kind of like that. It's a white livery car and it says Formula 1 and Hot Wheels on it. It looks good. Apparently that's on sale now and is limited edition. And then in 2025, models from all the different teams, I presume for next year's liveries, will become available, which is pretty cool. They also said that Hot Wheels are going to become a pretty permanent feature in F1 fan zones, so like at the different race events. You know, you turn up and there's a Heineken bar and there's a... oh, God. There's a thing where you can do like driving simulators with whoever their steering wheel partner is, I suppose. And there'll be some, like... there's a thing where you can practice doing pit stops, like the DHL pit stop thing. And I was going to say there's a Pirelli tyre. I don't think you can buy tyres. I don't think you can get your car tyres changed at a Grand Prix. I've never tried. I have to say, I did drive to the British Grand Prix one time. Massive mistake. Huge mistake. Don't do that. I mean, I drove every day. I've driven and camped there. That's how you should do it. Don't drive every day. Horrible idea. Anyway, as you know, if you go to a Grand Prix, there's loads of different like stuff to do outside of the track. Hot Wheels is going to become one of those things to do with the Hot Wheels shop and maybe some other Hot Wheels like activities. That's pretty cool. It's nice, and it's a nice way to get kids involved with the sport. Obviously very family friendly. They said in their press release that Hot Wheels are good for both families and adult enthusiasts, which is a very funny way to put it because you know who you are, and you know that you listening are a massive nerd, and there's a strong chance you're going to buy some of these. And I don't blame you, because I am too. See, I just thought it was newsworthy that Formula 1, for once, have taken just a massive W and have done something that just seems to be universally liked. They're not pushing some random crypto scam. They're not signing up with another, you know, petroleum company, some company that explodes moon rocks or fires kittens into space. They're just actually making a product which people would probably actually want, which is nice. Like that, well done. That's how you should be running this sport, and it's just nice to see for once. So very happy about that. Very cool collaboration. I will be spending all of my excess money on Formula 1 Hot Wheels next year, and you can't stop me. So be prepared to see the collection in the background of future videos, I suppose. Next thing on my list, this is just a quick point, but the Red Bull Ricciardo driver fiasco for some reason continues. So obviously Daniel Ricciardo was quite unceremoniously dropped from his RB position several days after the Singapore Grand Prix. Horrible time to do it, and the Red Bull organisation faced a bit of backlash for the treatment of Ricciardo and the timing of that announcement. I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago when I talked about Ricciardo's departure, and I said that there had been reports Helmut Marko offering, quote-unquote, an olive branch to Ricciardo, and saying they still want him signed with the team to do exhibition events or YouTube videos, that kind of thing. And I said at the time, maybe that is the case, but also that seems to be Red Bull trying to save face, to be like, oh, we haven't fired him, we've offered him a job. We're not the bad guys, we've offered him a job. So I thought that was kind of done with 2 weeks ago. No, they've kept doing that. They've kept going in interviews and said like, oh, we're really keen to keep ties with Ricciardo. He's such a valuable member of the Red Bull family and he's been with us for such a long time. Bullshit. Bullshit, Red Bull. You are trying to win back some PR because everyone hated you when you dropped Ricciardo. Yeah, I think it is probably true. They contacted Ricciardo's agents and said, would Ricciardo like to do these XYZ fan activities? But they've just kept saying it to different media outlets, and I wanted to mention it because I think that's an interesting thing to point out here. Any of you listening to this who are long-time watchers of Formula One will be well aware of the concept that Formula One has a lot of media spin and politics going on. And it's a very, insular thing. It's only a very small paddock. There's no regulators on what team principals can say, etc., etc., or what they can do financially, what sponsors they can sign. They can do whatever they want. And in an interview, they can say whatever they want. Anyone who's watched Formula One for a long time will know you can't trust anything that is said in an interview. If it gets said lots of different times by lots of different people, maybe then it might start to be true. If Christian Horner comes out and says, Daniel Ricciardo is so valuable to Red Bull, shut up. That is Red Bull trying to save face, okay? To all the newer fans, do not take these kind of interviews at face value. Team principals can and will say anything to try and make their team look better, to try and make them more valuable to sponsors, to try and sell more merchandise. Anything. They will say anything. And they do every day. I just thought it was noteworthy because I obviously talk to a few people in my Discord or through comments and stuff, and I see people saying, oh, I'm a newer fan, so I don't really understand the history of Ricciardo and Red Bull, and I don't really understand the team politics. What do you think about Horner and Marco saying this? And I always have to say to them, I think it's nonsense. I think it's a lie. I think it's bullshit because it's all media spin. And, if Christian Horner goes and talks to Autosport and says, oh, we love Daniel Ricciardo, we've offered him all this money, and we want so dearly to have him back, my life will be empty without Daniel Ricciardo. If he goes and says that to a print media publication, there's not really any space for Daniel Ricciardo to refute that, is there? He can't stand up, because he's not there, and go, hang on, that's not true, that's not my experience. He could put out a press release to say, I think Christian Horner is telling little fibs, but he's not going to do that because that's a weird thing to put out a press release for. So, there's absolutely tons of media spin. Just be cautious. You actually have to take Formula One not on face value lots of the time. You have to take it based on kind of how things feel. That sounds really strange to say. Trust the numbers. Trust the things you've seen with your own two eyes. Don't trust anything Helmut Marko says. Please, that's my life advice for today. Don't trust Helmut Marko. Anyway, enough about that point. I think that's a laboured bullet point at this point. Our next news. There have been reports from various media figures in the paddock that there's talks of an imminent announcement for an all-in-one season launch event for next year, for 2025. What that means is, instead of all 10 teams having their own launch event, which is typically a livery reveal, they get their team principal out, they get their two drivers out in their new overalls, they do a reveal of their new livery, which most times is the same as last year's livery, and actually they also just paint it on last year's car. They obviously don't show you the new car because they haven't finished it yet. They'll only finish it about 20 minutes before lights out in the first race, so that's why they don't show you a new car. So normally every team has their season launch event, which is a livery and a season concept event. The Ferrari one is normally quite a spectacle, and some of the bigger teams do quite a big thing. Red Bull normally do a decently big thing. Some of the other teams, it's a live stream and they go, here's our livery, by the way, and then they'll have the media person, I don't know, Karun Chandok, let's say, and he'll be there to ask a like generic set of questions to be like, what are your goals for this season? And the team principal will go, our goals are to improve for next year, and we want to score solid points, and we want to drive in circles, and we want to build a car that has 4 wheels. You watch it to see the new livery, basically. So there's been talks of trying to merge all 10 of these and enforce that all 10 teams do their season launch events together in one massive event, which is apparently set to take place in London, in I think the O2, or maybe Wembley Stadium, not Wembley Arena, like the event space that's next door to Wembley Arena. No, that's called Wembley Arena, not Wembley Stadium, whatever, in London. The theory is that all 10 teams would be mandated by Formula 1 and by the FIA to come to this big event and do their season launches there. And I suppose they would have to show off their new livery in this event. This is weird. It's weird for a couple reasons. Firstly, how to say, these launch events have never been mandatory. Teams don't have to do this. They do it because they're drumming up interest. They're trying to kick off their new merchandise for the year. They are trying to generate some social media buzz, that kind of thing. But teams don't have to do a livery reveal in theory. They can just turn up to testing and be like, oh yeah, here's our new car. They don't, because financially it's in their interest to do a launch event, but they don't have to, and there's no rules to say what you can and cannot do in a launch event. So it would be kind of weird to mandate that all the teams come to this, because, you know, some teams typically will just make some digital renders. Some teams will make a massive like example car with all fake parts and paint the livery onto that. If you're Ferrari, they will shut down an entire Italian town and have like a whole opera there, and like 3 different Cirque du Soleil troops running up the side of the wall and crazy stuff like this. But it's kind of weird to mandate them all to have to come to the same venue, and I suppose all have to do the same kind of launch. I would imagine how this would go is that the teams go kind of one by one and all have the same time slot, let's say 15 minutes or 10 minutes, to do their reveal. So we might go in like reverse season order, and we'll start with kick, and it'll be like up first, kick, and then there'll be this big reveal where they like lift a big piece of fabric off the car, and it's like, wow, the new car. And then we interview some people from kick, and it's like, great, now on to Williams, dun 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 dun. And then they reveal the Williams, and then they talk about that one. Kind of strange to like mandate that a team has to do this. It is also kind of strange because it does feel, for me, it feels like the NFLification, and that is a word that I've just made up, the NFLification of Formula 1, because it feels like Formula 1 management trying to have these very predictable, very relatable, very uniform events and structure to the year. You can imagine they've seen the success of the NFL and the way that the whole season is entirely formulaic in terms of schedule. I'm not saying that the matches are fixed, but in terms of schedule, you know, you start the season with the draft, and then you have like preseason camp time, and then you have August for the preseason games, and then you start in the first week of September and you run, and then the postseason always starts at the same time, and the Super Bowl is always at the same time, and you know exactly what you're going to get. And it's very cookie cutter, and it just makes it very easy to pick up the sport. Because if you're a fan of the Jacksonville Jaguars, or if you're a fan of the 49ers, or if you're a fan of the Minnesota Vikings, your schedule is exactly the same, and you can swap to a different team and your schedule is exactly the same. The draft is still at the same time, and the games are still at the same times. It's very easy. But, you know, if you're a fan of Ferrari, you have to like wake up and travel to some secret location on the outskirts of Milan to go and watch their launch event. And then if you are a fan of Haas, then they just post an image on Twitter. And so it's a bit vague, and it can be a bit weird trying to track these kind of out of season activities. So I can it feels to me like Formula One is trying to unify and kind of like smooth out all of it and make it all very predictable and all very ingestible. I think that's the word I was going for. Very ingestible, very easy to watch. They don't want you to have to struggle at all. They want you to be like, I want to watch Formula One. I know when that is. Because the easier you make it, the more people you can get to watch it. If every year they have this big launch event and you know you're going to see all 10 teams there, then it's easier to get people to watch it. And it feels like that's what's happening. And it just feels kind of weird. I just kind of don't like it. I can't explain why. It feels wrong, particularly if this is a mandatory thing and every team has to attend and they have to come to London and they have to do a 10-minute car presentation and all these kinds of things. It's removing it's removing what Formula One was, which is ultimately just a collection of people who make cars and drive cars turning up to drive those cars. Like, Formula One is a very DIY sport, or at least it used to be in the beginnings. So it feels weird to make it this massive, like, corporate commodity and the teams are all forced to do all these different activities. I don't like that. It feels like another small way for Formula One management and the FIA to, like, claw back control and completely define the entire lives of everyone who makes a living from Formula One. And I just don't like it. Just let them go. Let the teams do what they want. Let Haas release a god-awful blender render of their new car for next year. Let Ferrari fire an F2004 into the sun. I don't know what Ferrari's got planned, but I'm sure it's more interesting than whatever's going to happen at this event. Let them do that. That is the teams having their own identity. We're taking away the identity of the different teams, and it becomes a point where the teams are all just 10 of the same thing, and it's like, this is the red one, this is the green one, this is the blue one. I want the teams to have as much identity as possible and as much autonomy as possible to do their own weird stuff, because that's why we love Formula One, because it's strange, because teams are able to do all these bizarre things on their own. So I'm not really a fan. I would like to talk about what I think this event will be. We have no details of what it might be. It's not been officially announced. This is all rumours on Twitter, basically. But I've been trying to envision what will happen in this event, and I do think each team will get a slot where they do their car reveal, and there's a thing where, like, a sheet is lifted off the car and, like, a big camera, like, zooms out, and it's like, whoa, and it's going to be in some kind of arena in the O2 or something. And also, yeah, they said they're going to sell tickets. The rumor is this is going to be a ticketed event for fans. God knows how much this is going to cost. I'm assuming the audience is going to be entirely full of probably YouTubers, probably me. It'll be a business expense. But it'll be full of loads of people trying to get their very first image onto Twitter, that kind of thing. God knows how much it's going to cost, but, you know, they'll give each team their section where they reveal the car and the whole audience goes, whoa, and then they clap, and then they realize, well, no, wait, no, it's the same Red Bull livery I've seen for the last 6 years. Oh, okay. But also, I think, I can only imagine they're gonna make the drivers do some kind of, like, WWE-style walkout. If we have this event and it's in an arena space, I can't see them doing anything other than having, like, a big ramp and the driver comes out and they have their own, like, theme. You know what, like, where was it? Was it Miami or was it in Vegas? One of those two. And they had the thing and it was announced by will.i.am and every single driver had their own entrance song. They're gonna do that. That was the cringiest thing I've ever seen. In a good way. I enjoyed watching it so much. From the comfort of my sofa. I think if I was in the room, in an arena, my God, the cringe would probably kill me. They're gonna do that. It's gonna be, and now, George Russell. Do, 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 do. It's like, you just know that that's what they're going to do, and it's like, what are we doing here? So yeah, this is all conjecture, this is all rumours, but it sounds credible, and a couple different, quite prominent media figures in the paddock have said this, so let's see. I think it would be a funny event, because, you know, launch events as well are so cringy. I love watching them because they come out, and particularly the Aston Martin one the last few years, because I don't know why Lawrence Stroll is there. Lawrence Stroll is not good on camera, man. He's fine in like an edited like piece to camera. A live event, he's not it. He needs a lot more camera training. He needs to go to some improv classes, because my guy, those events are so awkward. I don't know why they run them as live streams, but they just have these massive periods of awkward silence. Lots of the people they're talking to, the team personnel, are just not good at talking to camera. They are so awkward. They'll reveal the car, and they have a small audience in like the team's auditorium space, but it's only ever like 100 people, and they reveal the car, and you hear the audience going like, woo, woo, and then they'll pump in some music to make it seem more intense, and they might even like pump in some more crowd sounds, but they're so cringy. They are so much fun. They are so much fun to watch as a live event, as in if it's actually in London, and to be in the audience of, I don't know if that's an event that's worth going to. So yeah, just a bit of a weird one. I wouldn't be surprised if this does become a thing, but then again, as I said, this is all conjecture, this is not official, so maybe this comes to nothing, maybe this is just a silly rumour. If this does get announced, I wouldn't be all that surprised. I'm curious to see what the event is like, but as I said, I don't like it. It feels like just another way for Formula One management and the FIA to wrest control away from the teams and to reduce their individuality, reduce their ability for expression and for their own causes and all this kind of individuality. I'm kind of against it. I hope if they do it, it's an enormous flop and they're like, right, we just won't do that in 2026. Let's see. But it definitely sounds like the kind of thing they would do. So let's see. My final thing on my notes for this week is the Australian Grand Prix ticket situation. So as far as I'm aware, I obviously didn't try and buy any tickets for Australian Grand Prix because that's, I think, the furthest one away from where I live. I would like to go to Australian Grand Prix, but I had no plans to go next year. Apparently the tickets were meant to go on sale one day this week. I don't know which day it was, but let's say it was Tuesday. They were meant to go on sale on Tuesday, and then none of the servers worked, and so no one could actually buy the tickets. And so the sale went down, and then they had to relaunch it the day after. Now, I will say, this is a very familiar story, because I'm pretty sure this happened for the Silverstone tickets for 2023, when I was trying to buy them for that. So this is not the first time this has happened. Ticketmaster got a lot of flack for this, and they blamed it on, like a global system outage, blah, 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 blah. But it got me thinking. It got me thinking about watching Formula One live. Some of you watching this will have gone to Grand Prix live. Some of you will have never gone to a live event, and so have never tried to buy a ticket, or maybe aren't even aware of the prices or what these events are like. Any of you who are regular attendees of a certain Grand Prix, or maybe you're someone who likes to go to a different one, like a different European one each year, that kind of thing, you'll be well aware of the fact that Grand Prix have been getting noticeably, substantially more expensive in the last few years. And I've also I found as well that the process of trying to buy tickets has just become a lot harder, a lot stupider. They tried to do the dynamic pricing thing for Silverstone. Luckily, I was on it like a hawk, and so I was just sat there like refreshing the page, and I hit buy literally within like 15 seconds of them going live. So I didn't get dynamic price, and I bought them at like the start price. The whole process of buying tickets has been getting worse, and the prices of tickets has been going just astronomical, just to the moon in the worst way possible. And it got me thinking, like, are there enough tickets? And is Formula One actually prioritizing itself as a in-person spectator sport? Because if every single one of the popular races to go to, because places like Qatar never sell all their tickets because there's not enough people in Qatar who want to go to the Grand Prix, and then there's not enough people who want to go to Qatar. So places like Qatar and Bahrain never sell all of their tickets, so they're kind of like, we're not including them. But basically every European Grand Prix, the US Grand Prix, which have insane prices. You've all seen the stories of tickets from Miami and Las Vegas, which cost like several grand just for a normal grandstand, like $4,000 to sit in a grandstand. Piss off. These races in these highly sought after areas are just becoming ludicrous, and the reason for that is that we have the same number of seats, but obviously a lot more people trying to go for them. And so the event organizer have realized that we can just keep increasing the price and people just keep paying it. But like, should they have to? Some people really want to go, and this is like a highlight of their year. And so something that used to cost them, let's say £250, if it's now £450, I mean, they can make it work, right? If this is a once in a year thing, they can save up and pay that price. But should they have to? I'm not going like full communist here and be like, the ticket should be free. But it is getting silly, the prices at this point, and the availability seems to be getting silly as well, because availability for me is a weird one. You can just build more grandstands. Just build more grandstands. There's no reason that almost any of these venues can't build more grandstands. Maybe Miami doesn't have the space for them, and Las Vegas as well. Fair enough. I can see how that's limited in Las Vegas. That makes sense. But if you look at any of the major permanent tracks, they have a lot of extra space around the outside that definitely could host more grandstands, and they're just not adding them in. Places like Silverstone, I would like to go to the British Grand Prix, please, but the tickets this year are like £600. Because there's more people fighting for the same number of tickets. Or even if there's not more people, let's say there's 250,000 tickets. As long as they have 250,001 people, as long as they sell out, they can raise the prices. Because if it comes next year and you've still got the same 250,001 people, then you can add £100 onto all the ticket prices. And as I said, for lots of people, this is the highlight of their year. This is a massive weekend in the calendar for any motorsports fan. Lots of people will make it work. They'll be like, oh God, it's gone up by £200. But I guess, I can save up throughout the year. I can put it on my credit card and I can pay it off in a couple of months. Like, they can make it work, but we're just farming money from these people. You're taking an extra £200 from every single person trying to attend these races. I feel like Formula One as an in-person event, as an in-person sport, is in a weird place where we're having difficulties for anyone to even get the tickets for these events. Lots of perennial attendees are now getting priced out of these events. People who live near these tracks and go because they're there now suddenly can't afford to go to them. They're getting priced out by people who are flying into Barcelona to go to the Spanish Grand Prix, and it's like, well, I live down the road. Like, what the hell? I don't know. Sorry to go on a rant on this, but I do feel like there's been this slow decline in the opinion of Formula One management towards the people who want to actually watch a Grand Prix live. It feels like TV viewership has been prioritized so massively that the actual kind of like diehard fans who go to the races have been kind of like shoved to the side. And the thing that's crazy about this is I have absolutely no concrete evidence. I have no like anecdotes to point to. But I think any of you watching this who are like regular attendees of in-person races probably know what I'm talking about. There definitely feels like there's this culture shift in Formula One, and it feels like the sport would be more than happy for every track to just have like one grandstand where every single seat is 20 grand and it's all these fucking influencers and celebrities who have flown in from all over the world, and they can put one camera there to show their happy fans, and then that's it. And then they make their money by selling ridiculous sponsorship packages, and people pay for paddock access, and they pay 50 grand to be able to go and sneeze on Lando Norris. It feels like the mass viewership, the venues where you get these thousands and thousands of people on the roar of the crowd, it's not being prioritized. I'm not saying you have to put these people first. I'm not saying put them above everyone else. But, like, can you stop screwing them over? Can you stop raising the prices? Like, just put it at a normal price. Just put it at a price. People have said to me recently, they're like, oh, Silverstone doesn't make any money hosting the British Grand Prix. What do you mean they don't make any money? It's 350,000 people and they're charging them £600 each. And that's just the Grand Prix weekend. And then they've got all the sponsorship. And then, you know, there's like a Porsche driving experience at Silverstone. It's a regular track day event. That track makes so much money. It's owned by the like, British Grand Prix Drivers Association, the British Racing Drivers Association. That organisation is unbelievably wealthy. Don't feel bad for them. So I don't know, this is just my old man rant. My old man sat on porch ranting about the world thing. I've been noticing this culture shift affecting people who want to actually watch live Formula 1 recently. And I just had to get my feelings out there, I suppose. If you have had a similar experience, if you have noticed you know, moves like just to take things away from the in-person crowd at races, please let me know. I want to hear your experiences. Like, have you been costed out of an event which you've been to for the last 20 years? Have you, let's say, always done the same thing at a race and now suddenly it's prohibited or it's been taken away? Like, has the same hill you've always sat on now been paved over and converted into a Hot Wheels fan activation zone? I get the feeling there's going to be a lot of these stories out there. Maybe it's just me looking at this Australian Grand Prix ticketing story and it's blowing out of proportion, and there was a failure from some like Java web hosting service that made the tickets not go through. But I don't know, it feels like it's the same story everywhere of like not enough tickets, fans getting charged too much, fans having to scrape together ludicrous amounts of money, but they do it anyway because they just love the sport. And because people love the sport, I'm worried that they might be taken advantage of. And I don't want that. I want people to just enjoy the sport and not have to go bankrupt because of it. Alright, I may have gotten a bit deep there. I have run out of notes, I have to say. I have no idea how the Cadillacs behind me are getting on because, unsurprisingly, I can't see what they're doing. They may have all crashed ages ago. I don't know. But I think I'm going to end the podcast there. Next weekend is, of course, the US Grand Prix at the Circuit of the Americas. A welcome return after this seemingly endless break. I am so racing deprived. I am in a racing drought. I have racing thirst, so please give me something. We get to see Liam Lawson back again in RB. We obviously don't get to see Daniel Ricciardo. Oh, a little news story, just a little tidbit. Apparently, there was an event planned for this week where the mayor of Austin was going to do a ceremony and give Daniel Ricciardo the keys of the city. Obviously, Daniel Ricciardo, very popular in the US, and he's treated the US Grand Prix as a sort of second home race. He's done all his special stuff there. Very famously rode into the paddock on a horse that one time, etc., etc. Very popular there. He says it's like a second home for him. There was meant to be a ceremony where he was going to receive the keys to the city, but now obviously he's not going to the US Grand Prix because he got fired immediately before. They could have let him go after COTA, but no, they had to get Lawson in now. Whatever. No hate towards Lawson, just all my hate towards the Red Bull organization. But yes, next weekend we have the US Grand Prix. The Camping Chair Chat will be back to do a little race review, to talk about the events of that race, to go back into our championship watch to see if Lando Norris still has a chance to take this title, or maybe Charles Leclerc or Oscar Piastri. We shall see. I might have a guest to talk about the race with me. Who knows? Formula 1 YouTubers they're like, I was going to say butterflies. I guess that's not a bad metaphor. They're very hard to catch. I've actually never tried to catch a butterfly. I'm rambling again. I'm going to end the podcast there. I will see you next week to cover all the action in COTA. Until then, enjoy your week. Try not to try not to crash your car, I suppose, would be my advice for the week. If you want, MrV'sGarage.com to pick up all your Mr. V's Garage merchandise, including the limited edition 50k subscriber bucket hat. There are only 50. Get them while you can. I'll catch you guys next week. See ya.